Hi everyone. So today I had the opportunity to speak with one of our highly valued freelance members, Robin Dhara. Robin is an award-winning media strategist who has been described to work with, quote, a curious kind of crazy for high-growth technology companies. He has worked with the likes of Google, Vimeo, TED, Land Rover. He is full of creativity and eccentricity, and therefore we thought it would be really interesting to delve into his career timeline and find out a little bit more about his journey. So, Robin, you recently worked on a project with a client from the work crowd whereby you really challenged status quo with a rather unconventional approach to B2B PR. This ultimately led to an award-winning campaign. Do you feel like, given the uncertain times at the moment, that having the ability to look outside of the norm is important? And why do you think this?
Hi. Hi, Lauren. Thanks for having me on here. I I think in order to make an impact, you should always look outside the norm. I don't think now is yes, now historically is a time different from any other, and people are uh, the mode of communication and the channels that we're using are changing and shifting, and I don't know if they're going to go back anytime soon. But looking outside the norm has always been something that both journalists look for and PR agencies and PR people look for in clients. We're always trying to find the unusual and the unique in order to create a story.
Mhm.
Anything that's run of the mill gets lost and becomes, well, in the old days when we still used to read newspapers, like, yesterday's or today's fish and chip paper, as one of my ex-bosses would put it. If you're going to have an impact, you have to be unique and you have to stand out
Yep.
with your story, with your brand strategy, with your business strategy, with whatever products you're launching. You have to have a point of difference. And I think that's why I avoid most projects that come my way, because they just don't stand out enough. And the entrepreneur or the project owner at an enterprise isn't willing to take the risk because it might upset some shareholders. And I think if you really do want to create an impact and drive, well, nowadays, traffic or leads or build relationships in order to build sales, you have to look differently. You have to be different.
Absolutely. And how do you find and how do you approach finding a story or coming up with new creative ideas?
I don't know. I don't know if anyone's going to hire me after this interview. the one, the one thing I've realized, I've been working a lot with I'm lucky in the sense that I work with a couple of, let's say, unofficial partners, journalists, national journalists, because I find that the creative friction that comes from exploring an idea privately with a trusted individual helps me iron out all the wrinkles. I break it down completely. I ignore the story that's being given to me, and I've got four kind of stages that me and Alex have gone through. One is like the rediscovery of the story. So a press release that someone's given me or a pitch that someone's given me might be X company launches Y. And we actually ignore that completely. And we go back to like the purpose of the company, how it fits into the bigger picture. We kind of rediscover the brand messages. And then we redefine all the different ways in which a story can be told. And then we go and test it with a couple of industry opinion formers. So I like conditioning the market to thinking about a problem before we launch a company with the solution. Does that make sense?
It does, yes.
So any story that's given to me, I actually, to be honest, I largely ignore, and then I start looking for the bigger kind of the wider picture. What outside of the company and outside of that freelance entrepreneur, what is the bigger picture? How does this fit in and make an impact in that particular industry? And what is going to be intriguing and enticing for the journalist, whether it appears in print or not, that will get them interested in talking to my client?
Yeah. Okay.
So positioning and messaging is key there as well. And then we rewrite the story in multiple different ways, because investors want stories in one way.
Yeah.
Consumer technology journalists want the story in another. Creative technologist blogs want the story in another. You know, and you can rewire this instead of just going on a templatized press release and one standard pitch.
Great. So we currently find ourselves in the biggest work from home experiment. You yourself are an experienced freelancer, so working remotely for clients isn't new for you. It'd be great to get some insight into around how you have effectively worked in remote spaces, and also what advice would you give to others?
Right. This is a weird one because I only kind of, if I'm honest with you, for the first 5 or 6 years of me doing this working from home thing, I sucked. I think everybody sucks at the beginning because the mindset and the discipline and the routine and the thing, there's all this pressure, and you read all these books about how to work from home and freelancing and digital nomadism and this, that, the other. We overload ourselves. And for the first 5, 6 years, I didn't work very well. I didn't have my processes set out. And the first few years, I was freelancing by going into agencies' offices or going in-house and sitting at a desk and absorbing the practices and workflows of that particular agency or that particular company, like every freelancer does. Now, I only mastered 2 years ago, actually, when I started working with you guys. I decided that I wanted to work from all over the world, so not just work from home.
Right.
And I think that the first time that we worked together was a very large global research project, if I remember correctly. And I was actually on a beach just outside Barcelona, and I was like, oh, pardon my
Beach
language.
around.
How the hell am I going to do this?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I really kind of forgot everything that I'd read, and I started absorbing and reviewing all the best practice from all the agencies I'd worked in and putting that online and finding additional resources. Now, I will share some of these resources, podcasts and frameworks with your work crowd team, if you like, because I did some trial and error. So my advice is, it's a lot of trial and error. One is build yourself a little space where you do nothing but your creative thinking and no one can interrupt you. Mm-hmm. Build yourself a mental routine and build yourself a digital or even physical on your desk way of working that is standardized. Don't try doing too many things at once. Clear your desk every evening. So when you come back to your desk, you've got a clear desk.
Yeah.
And have all the resources that you need, all the inspirations that you need set up. That'll take you a bit of time. It's taken me a little while, but if I show you this room now, I can't really write on the walls and stuff, but I've got those white sticky posters and post-it notes all over the place. I don't know if this is being recorded on video, but I've got all my kind of I've made sure that all my kind of marketing resources and books are all on the middle shelf, so I don't have to get up while thinking. Do you know what I mean? I just grab them.
That's a good idea.
Come back, figure it out. Like look at optimizing your space.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you'll go crazy, which I did. Every
for 5 years.
For 5 years, there was like crap all over the place, and I'm like, where did I put that pen? Where did I put that book? I had that. Do you know what? Everything takes twice as long when you're swimming around in crap. I like freeing up space in my mind for creative thinking, and creative thinking needs time slots. You need I need an hour or two to think, and I can't do that if I'm spending an hour trying to find a book or trying to find the printer ink.
Yeah.
You know, spend an hour trying to find something. Don't optimize your space, and both digitally and physically. And the other thing is, first thing in the morning, as PR people, you know, no matter how depressing it is at the moment, catch up on the news, but 20 minutes, 30 minutes, don't get lost in it. And I've got a bunch of other stuff, but I don't think we've got long enough to go through it all. But it's taken me a long time and a lot of trial and error to get it right.
So, as an award-winning media strategist with an extremely varied career, what have been some of the key pivotal moments, and what lessons have you learned from them?
My first one was getting fired for asking too many questions.
That should never be a bad point.
It was. I'm not going to name where it was.
Yeah.
But I was young, so I left home quite early. I left home at 16, came down to London, and became a magician in Hamley's toy store.
Really?
And then somebody told me I was wasting my talents and I should go into PR. And then I read about PR and I fell in love with the idea of, applied psychology, and I tried to get a job everywhere. Luckily, a friend of mine got me into a government agency. I won't name the agency, but it was one of the early days of sustainability thinking, is probably the best way to put it. And during this brainstorm, and I was so honored and so excited to be part of this agency doing some good for the world, is like one of my first gigs. But I was a bit too young, a bit too naive, and I knew nothing about office politics. The brainstorm was about how you can help the British public. Oh, I'm going to be careful here because I don't want them to hear this. How you can get the British public to act and behave more sustainably.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was piling into the brainstorm, and I was piling into the brainstorm as well. I was really loving this kind of brainstorm element. It was so amazing. And then the head of this massive multi-million pound government department goes, everybody, Robin, slow down. We don't want to put ourselves out of a job by everybody saving on their energy or being too sustainable, because we'll be out of a job next year. And in my head, I thought, isn't that the point of this agency? To basically save the planet. Yeah. You do something so well that you put yourself out of a job. An hour later, I got called in and let go. And I was wondering why. And it took me a little while to figure out that sometimes that listening and not being listening was the key, and not jumping into everything, because you've got to survey the land around you. But the campaign was a huge success afterwards. It was just, I learned a lot about the kind of people I don't want to work with.
Yeah.
And I think people that have like superficial messaging, any PR freelancer should avoid, because you will never get the tools or the resources you need to truly make a difference to that business or to that industry you're trying to impact, if all they want to do is play a game for a few months. Yeah, you'll get a few months worth of work out of it. You'll get a few months of your daily rate. I was working for this government agency for about 3 months, but I was 19 at the time, so I was probably also doing crappy things like bad photocopying. Who knows? But this is before like email. Anyway, but truly think about the kind of people you want to represent.
Yeah.
And the kind of stories that they will allow you to do, and the impact that they will allow you to make, because you are only as good as your last story. And if the story becomes bland, then technically you as a professional are also being bland. I don't think the world's got time for that.
No, not at all.
Do you agree? It changes when you get to a more enterprise and a more responsible kind of level of communications. There's corporate communications, and there's a lot of moving parts in those kind of businesses. Mm-hmm. So always trying to make, but even then you can see companies that truly make a difference. Zappos being one of them. Be careful about who you work for. Some people just don't deserve it.
Absolutely.
Another big lesson I learned was working for Mark Bukowski. He is incredible. He told me off more than anyone I can remember, but he taught me so much about the art of showmanship and storytelling. Like, it doesn't matter whether it's a corporation or a celebrity or a music brand. there you always have to look for the wow factor, and the wow factor is what will, as Mark used to put it, put bums on seats. Because, you know, he started off as a theatre publicist, so if he didn't do something that was theatrical, the show went down. And the same went for the kind of clients that we represented. There was, you know, Vodafone and Virgin Digital, and then on the other side, you know, Iron Maiden and Eddie Izzard. And this kind of, this mesh of corporate meets consumer was in that, it was just, it makes you think differently about what a story is. And I didn't experience that in some of the more enterprise-led agencies. Enterprise-led agencies weren't so much quite a few of them back in the day. I know I look about 12, but I'm a lot older than I found. Just wanted to keep the machine churning, and Bukowski was not like that at all.
Yeah.
He was all about the story and all about service to the journalist. If the journalist got a sniff of the bigger picture and where this particular story fit in the wider scheme of their industry or their remit or their beat,
mm-hmm.
and then you manage to do it with a certain amount of flair, you know, you could really move mountains. And Horlicks was one of those campaigns that we did that. Horlicks, you know, that sleepy drink, malt, you know, GlaxoSmithKline. We turned it into a cool clubbers drink, because the idea at the time was people were taking care of themselves more. They were working more, and they wanted to. So instead of going out and partying all night, they were actually. I mean, this has all come full circle now. We rebranded and relaunched a story saying that Groucho Club and Soho House were putting Horlicks on their menu, which they did for us.
Really?
I don't know if this is public knowledge, yeah, but they put it on their menu right next to the whiskey and the after dinner drinks. And then the next thing you know, there's a 2,000 word article in the Independent. The Sun calls it the biggest selling year of Horlicks in Horlicks' 180-year history at that time, or something like that.
That's incredible.
That taught me the value of showmanship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not being a showman, but creating that for your client.
Brilliant. And so do you have any predictions around what the impact will be of the current crisis, and if there will be any opportunities once everything is calmed down and everything is really back to normal?
I think this has been happening for a while. I think it's been largely ignored, or probably hasn't been seen yet. But whenever I look, every year for the past 10 or 15 years, I've been looking at, you know, PR Week and Campaign, and they're talking about the evolution of PR and how digital marketing practices are going to come in, and, you know, measurement and evaluation of PR campaigns, et cetera, constantly evolving. I saw all of that. And I think most of it is actually wrong. I think that the argument that our industry has always made, that we deserve a place on the top table and we deserve a place on the C-suite, I think we're already there, but we're not looking at it the right way.
Yeah.
What I've noticed working with technologists and engineers and these kind of companies that have now taken over the world is that PR and the practices of PR, i.e. the more important practices, messaging, positioning, brand strategy, are merging with the disciplines of UX, user experience, and product design. UX writing has become a thing now, rather than just copywriting. And I think messaging and getting the message out is being embedded into products from the very inception, not as a marketing or PR-led afterthought.
Mm.
And I think that the more people because the more clever, insightful people that look at messaging and positioning and communications from a broader and a deeper way than just digital marketing or digital PR will be the winners in this new economy, because they will be actively getting a seat at the top table. They'll be helping build new products and services using their knowledge and experience of how language affects some of these technology-powered apps.
Mm-hmm.
And they will evolve outside of the traditional communications framework.
Amazing. A big thank you to Robin for taking the time to answer these questions today. We'll be uploading this webinar to our website and also featuring it in our newsletter. If you have any questions moving forward, do reach out to myself or Robin. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you very much, Lauren. Good speaking to you again. I'll speak to you later.